I'm gonna tell you the whole story to why I have cows from the beginning until now, the pros, the cons, all the nitty gritty about milk cows. So I didn't grow up with milk cows. A lot of you are actually shocked that I haven't been doing this since I was a child. No, that was not my experience. We live far out here in the country, but we didn't ever have cows. We had pigs, we had lambs at one point, a dog. I mean, like the typical animal, but no, we did not have chickens or cows. But one of my best friends that I was raised with from basically kindergarten to graduating high school, she had a dairy farm, and I would go sometimes and I would love to learn and watch her milk the cows, but never once I was like, you know what? One day I'm gonna get me a milk cow. No way. So fast forward, I had been doing Instagram for a couple of years. I moved back into my childhood home, back to the country. I had met a new friend. I went over to her farm, and I didn't even realize that there were different kind of cows, to be honest. I thought there was basically one kind of cow, the black and white, the Holstein. But I learned there were different. There were Jersey, there's Holstein, there's Guernsey, a Highlander, there's a bunch of different. And I had no clue that their milk tastes different. So I had the Holstein black and white. My friend, sometimes she would put it on my cereal for breakfast, and I would be like, I don't know if I love that, the raw, fresh milk. But we were out there and I was learning how to hand milk for the first time. And I don't know, in that moment, I became obsessed with it. I felt like, wow, there's something really grounding about this. And what a cool experience this is, that I get to almost have this farm to table type thing, that I can milk this cow and I drink it straight off the cow, which at first did freak me out, okay? I was like, what? Did you wash her well enough? Are we okay? And immediately I was like, that's the best tasting milk I've ever had in my life. It didn't taste like the other raw milk that I had had in that whole experience. I came home that night, and I'm not exaggerating, I couldn't get it out of my mind. I was like, I need a milk cow. And my family thought I was nuts. They're like, what are you talking about? You don't have a barn, you don't have fencing, you don't even know what it's like to have a cow. And I'm like, I don't really care. When I want something, it's a problem. So I actually got on the Instagram, and I said, you guys, I have fallen in love. I want a milk cow, and I want it a Jersey. And there was a follower that actually wrote me, and she said, Lizi, if you're being serious, we have a farm right here in Utah that you can come down and you can buy a cow from us. And I was like, this is meant to be. The next day, we drove down. Not a week later, the next day, I go down, and she was the sweetest lady. I still talk to her today. I love her. And she was like, okay, well, why don't you pick your cow? And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So I went through, and there were a couple of cows that I thought, oh, I like them. They're pretty. That's good. But I really did feel something when I found Fannie, and that wasn't her name. But I was like, I feel something towards you. And I said, that's her. That's my milk cow. Call it whatever. She spoke to me. I felt it. So little then did I find out that she was pregnant. She was having a calf. And I was like, I'm getting two? I'm getting two cows? Oh no, I didn't even know. They were like, well, she's already had one calf and this is her second. I had no clue that cows had to be pregnant as often as they are. No clue. And a lot of you might say that's not good, that's wrong. Honestly, it's the cow's life. That is their purpose. And what I've noticed is they're happier, their hormones, maybe not for us humans. I'm not the happiest pregnant, but for cows, they really are. They love it. It's their purpose. And if you don't keep them pregnant, they lose their milk. It's like us humans, right? If we stop getting pregnant, we don't have milk. So it's the same thing for cows, which is interesting because I thought cows just always had milk. I just thought, wow, okay, they always have milk. And how much milk? And does one give chocolate milk? Just one give chocolate milk? Okay, so what do you need for a cow? I actually get asked that a lot. You actually don't need that much land. I thought you did. I'm only on 2.5 acres. And yes, it's nice to if depending on how many cows you have, right? You can put them into one pasture and then they eat all the grass and then they can be moved to the other. But really, they like to be in a small space. As I said before, I didn't have fencing. So yes, my husband had to create a fence. We didn't have a barn and we didn't have enough money to create a barn. So I had to make a little tiny little house. I called it her little hygge house for Fannie because I was like, she needs a house. I hung a picture up in it. I was like, I want her to feel like she's at home. They do need something to keep away the wind, right? But one thing that I didn't know is cows cannot be closed in a barn. Like you can't shut the doors because it will actually make them sick with the weather changes and stuff. And they like to roam in and out. So we just created this little shelter thing and it was perfect. She was happy. It was super cute. But yeah, it was quite the process to get a fence up that fast and the little house. I mean, I wasn't ready, but when I wanted it, I wanted it. What surprised me the most about the cows is the pregnancy thing. So Fannie gave birth on the Food Nanny farm. Moose was our very first calf. All of you remember Moose. He was the most handsome bull I've ever seen, truly. And that experience, watching her give birth, I felt like I became a grandmother. I'm not kidding. I bawled my eyes out. It was the most amazing, incredible experience. I love watching birth, human birth. Like I've been in the room with all of my sisters. They're always in the birth for me. Like we love birth. And the animal birth was no different. It was amazing. The most shocking was then 60 days after they give birth, they're supposed to be pregnant again. And I was like, what? We got to do this again. And once again, that seems harsh and that doesn't seem normal or right. But the longer you go and not get the cow pregnant, they kind of create like an endometriosis where it's harder for them to get pregnant. So your chances of getting them pregnant again are slimmer. And so you have to keep them pregnant. And it might not take the first time, kind of like a human. And then they're pregnant for 9 months like us. So you have to keep up on that. So we've had 3 babies on this farm and she hasn't had a calf for about 2.5 years and she's pregnant again right now. It's so exciting. So Fannie has had 3 calves on the farm. We've had Moose, we've had Cherry, which Cherry is still out there. And then the next one was Maple. And she gave birth 2.5 years ago. And most cows at this point would be dry, but they're just so different. She is still giving milk. And we get about at 1.5 gallons a day. And that's milking morning and night. And that's the other shocking thing. You have to milk a cow 2 times a day, 2 times, morning and night. I thought it was like a once a day thing. Nope, that's a 2-timer. If you're considering a cow, let me just give you the pros and cons that I have really learned through my experience. Number 1, they have to keep getting pregnant, right? So then you keep having babies. What are you going to do with all those babies? That's hard. And then it's not easy to get rid of them. I love them. I love them like a child. So that's really difficult. So you either can't get attached or you need to think of a better situation or give it to a friend or whatever. The other shocking thing is cows bloat like crazy. Like a lot of people will come out to their cow and it's sad, but they're dead. They have literally bloated like a balloon. And there's different reasons for it. Wind can cause bloating. They could have eaten like too much hay. They could have eaten a piece of trash, like whatever. There's a million reasons. And they can bloat like crazy. And some of the cows bloat more than normal. Fannie bloats all the time. And it's very scary. And the process to do it, I can't even do it. I have to make Chris do it. You have to like put a tube down into their stomach, and you have to be very careful because if you get it too far over in their throat, you can kill them. It's very scary. So you have to get it down this certain tube, down to their stomach, and you should hear it. It comes out like hot gas. And you can hear all the air comes out. It's freaking wild. I'm not kidding. That's very shocking. Another con is really milking twice a day. It is morning and night, every single day. There is no vacation. There is no time off. And that can be very difficult. So when we do want to go on a vacation, That's hard. And it's hard to find people that want to milk. So I have heard of some people that love to get in like a milk group together. There's a lot of girls up here that wanted a cow, but they didn't want the commitment every day. And I do think that's smart and that's great. But it's a commitment every single day. Another con is they do kind of add up. To buy a cow, it's not that expensive. But the food, the grain, and the hay, because I don't have a ton of grass around. So those two things, that adds up. That adds up. So you have to think about that because they go through a lot of hay. But what makes it worth it? It's the most delicious milk. It is so fresh. You are getting everything good that you would want in milk. Her gene is called A2A2. And so lactose intolerant can even have this milk. I've tried it on some of my friends that have a major lactose problem. So it's better on your gut. The cream, okay? Let's go to the cream. The cream is the best. The jerseys have a really thick cream. The butter that you're making with that, the heavy cream that you're making with that, the cream alone is incredible. And want me to tell you something cool? I did not know that my great-grandmother had a cow. And when I got the cow, my aunt, my great aunt, gave me my great grandmother's butter mold. And I seriously had an emotional moment of like life came full circle. Like I felt like I was back in the olden days, back to my roots, having my butter mold with my cow, making my own butter. Like it kind of makes me emotional right now. And I feel like we've gone so far away from that it's fun to go back to that, especially now with my wheat and now my milk. It's like, I think it's incredible. Tips for fitting the milking schedule good for you. You can set the time. Once you get your cow, you can decide if you want to start at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m., but they do like a set schedule and it has to be about 12 hours. So we do 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. But I will tell you this, in the beginning, I felt like, oh no, like you can't be off an hour or 2 hours. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So don't stress about that because I know real farmers are like, no, it is a set schedule, but sometimes things happen and they're totally fine. So figure out the time that works best for you and then just try to commit to it as best as you can. But don't stress if for some reason you can't. So about 2 years ago, I decided that I kind of wanted to go the mini route. I think a mini is just super cute. Mini anything. I mean, you know how I like mini loaves, mini everything. There was a guy selling a mini jersey. Didn't know that existed. So I bought the mini and she had a little calf, so cute, but it was time to get her pregnant. We had been trying for 2 years. So we were in a situation. We had Fannie. We had Fannie's baby Cherry that had never been pregnant before, and we had the mini. We paid for so much semen, it kept coming. We paid for the vet to come. We paid for our friend farmer to come. The cows were not getting pregnant, could not get pregnant. So finally I was like, I think something's wrong with the mini. I give up. I guess it's been over 2 years. So then we try to get Fannie pregnant. Fannie then couldn't get pregnant. I'm like, okay, wow, I can't believe it. We're done. Because the mini dried up and she has no more milk. So Fannie's the only one that's been having milk. So finally, one of the farmers, I don't know if you want to cut this part out or not, said, she needs to get horny. And I was like, excuse me? She's like, you got to go to the real deal or you're got to be done because I cannot get her pregnant. So my friend had a Highlander bull that I think is gorgeous, and I didn't have access to a mini bull. So I'm like, oh, the Highlander is smaller, you know. Anyway, we bring Leo over. The ladies immediately fell in love with him. I have the funniest reel on earth. He comes off like the biggest stud muffin alive, like, ladies, I'm here. I'm here for you. The ladies came running to him. They were like literally kissing his face. And I can't even believe it. He got all 3 pregnant. All 3 are pregnant. And they are all due basically like days apart. So we got 3 babies coming. I mean, this is super exciting. 3. Leo he is the man. He is the man. And when he left, I cried. I want him to come back. I fall in love with all of them. That's the problem. That's the con. You fall in love. The thing about the bull, though, is everybody was like, well, why can't you keep him? He's amazing. Why wouldn't you just want to keep him? It's not practical. If the ladies are now pregnant, they become bored. And if they become bored, then they become a little bit more aggressive. I started to notice that. He was super happy. He was super friendly. But once the ladies got pregnant, it started to become a little bit of a different story. And I was scared. When I then went out there, I didn't know if he was going to attack me or not. So it's not good. And he was eating a bale of hay himself a day. Himself. So cost-wise, all of it, it was just like, it's not good. And for my safety. So unless you have enough space, I wouldn't go the route of keeping a bull. All things considered, do I love the cows? Yes. Am I so grateful that I did it? Oh, 100,000%. But I do think you need to think about the pros and the cons because there are pros and cons to it. And I feel like my advice is some of the best advice you're gonna find out there because I've lived it, I've done it. It's almost like having a baby. You don't know until you have an actual baby. You can read the books, but once you experience it, then you know for yourself. But I've loved it. I'm so grateful I did it. I would do it again. Am I gonna do it for the rest of my life? I always get asked that. I don't know. But do I love it? I'm grateful for it, 100%.